Today, I wanted to talk about dad bods. And when I say that, I mean dad bods, father bodies. You know, middle-aged guys, I guess, who don't go to the gym, not overweight, but maybe have a little bit of a gut. Reason why I wanted to talk about this is I was watching a Joe Rogan episode yesterday. I'm catching up on my Joe Rogan podcasts, and he had Tom Pop on. Now, I love Tom. He's one of my favorite comedians. Tom always brings bread whenever he comes to see Joe. And like that's the last thing he needs, right? Is more carbs, and Joe admits that, right? He talks about health and fitness and he, like me, I don't know if it's our Italian DNA that, we crave carbs. So, but that does, eventually affect you and your weight and how you look, right? When you eat too many carbs. Too much of anything is not good for you, right? We all know this. But Joe was bringing up a point about that he saw a survey or something or a poll about how women prefer dad bods. And he was like, "Oh, there's no way that these women are just saying this to, they don't want to shame their husbands or their boyfriends or whatever." And Tom was like, like, "Oh yeah, like love this if this is the case, right?" So to that point, is this true or is this not true? For the women out there, let us know. I thought deeper more about this. Joe has such an audience, and I don't see him doing polls a lot on like Twitter or Instagram or even on YouTube. You can do polls on YouTube. So should Joe do a poll asking this question? Should he? Like he's got 10 million listeners a day that listen to his podcast. So, where I don't know where this poll came from, and I'm sure if you research, is there a poll for dad bods? You'd probably find 50 of them, from Cosmopolitan to Vanity Fair to who knows where. So, is that a real sample size? Because then their thing was that a lot of what those women were just lying. They were just saying that, like they really don't feel that way. You're like, like I love having sex with you, but I close my eyes and I fantasize about my ex-boyfriend or, whatever movie star. Or is it that this is true? We've been told all of our lives that scientifically women are audible and men are visual, right? That we as males have a tendency to use more of our eyes, when we're looking at a female. It's what physical attraction versus where women care more about like tones, tonality, voice. They like a really deep, sexy voice. That's what a lot of the women I've known, that's what they say. They say that it's more about voice and a whole lot more, right? I mean, there's a whole lot more to this than what we're looking for in a partner. I'm just trying to break this down. I'm not trying to get into too nuanced about, what are all the reasons. There's millions of reasons, from chemistry to, are they nice to you? Do they have a job, right? So we're not trying to break all that down. But this whole dad bod thing, is this just because, people are busy, they don't have time to work out all the time, or maybe they're not into physical fitness. So that means they're not dateable now. Joe being like, I think he's in his mid 50s. I'm 49. I'll be 50 in August. In the era we grew up with, all of the heroes were like, Schwarzenegger and Stallone and, Jean-Claude Van Damme. All of the big, action stars and heroes were buff. So as young men, we thought, well, if that's what is selling in Hollywood, apparently that's what people want. So maybe I should look like this. And with social media and all the issues with body dysmorphia, men suffer from it too. I do. I'm 6'2". I weigh 245 pounds. I should probably be around 210, 220. And then I, do like everybody else, and I use the excuses of, hey, it's wintertime. We're just coming out of winter. I have time to get ready for bikini season. I don't wear bikinis. But, so like, what are excuses and what are not excuses? Because we're seeing a trend where we're seeing a lot of obese, overweight models. This is becoming more and more of a thing every year. We're told not to body shame and to have a little acceptance. And also, you have to look at it from the other side. Are we promoting bad health? I mean, you could look at this from so many different angles. Because what is obese? Literally, according to the chart, I'm obese. I mean, look at me. Do I look obese? But according to the chart, I do, based on my height, and my weight. I just don't pay attention to this garbage anymore because it's changing all the time. What was obese 10 years ago is completely different than what it is today. And will that change in 5 or 10 years down the road from now? And why do these things change? Why is this not just a static, constant? This is what it is. Like, why do we keep moving the scales to feel better about ourselves or to anyway, back to this whole thing with Joe. So Joe was, I sometimes wonder when he talks about, like, physical attributes, or, or what men want or what women want, any of these things, is this a certain amount of projection from Joe? Because I think I do this sometimes. I project what I think based on what my thoughts are. Like, if this is what I'm thinking, surely a lot of people think this way. So Joe has in his mind, and he said this several times, that women want like this Viking style man, right? But because he says that something about, and I'm trying to remember, so bear with me. So I'm gonna destroy this. But he essentially what he said is that, women, when they're looking at a men, they're looking at like their shoulders, their legs, their thighs, their hips. These guys going to be able to like carry things and build things? Are they going to be able to build shelter? And are they going to be able to, like, go hunt food, and provide for the family? Maybe that was the case, thousands of years ago, right? When it was, the cavemen were doing all these things. Even in the 1800s, when you had like the Jeremiah Johnsons of the world. If you've never seen that movie, it's a great movie with Robert Redford. And so you get an idea of our worldview growing up in the 70s and 80s, of that there are characters like this Jeremiah Johnson living out in the middle of nowhere, trying to live off the land. We don't need that today. We have grocery stores. We don't have to go hunt and gather, and build. So we have all these modern amenities. We don't have to live like that. So have our bodies changed based on that? You can work out too much. Joe was talking to Tom about a guy that had worked out so much that he died. Like, his heart gave out. This guy was carrying around like such an extremely low percentage of body weight for so long, and exercising like literally, like, I don't know, I can't remember, like 8 to 10 hours a day or something, like an extreme. This person must have had some kind of body dysmorphia issue. So to that point, is this, something that people want, or is it what we think people want? So is Joe projecting his feelings, on us, and I'm not trying to make it sound that way, that he's trying to like force us into thinking something. I'm just saying that I feel like he's projecting, because he talks about this a lot sometimes, when it comes to the male anatomy and male shape, and what we should look like. And this is what women want. Or do these things not matter so much? Like, does everybody have to be a 10? Like, what is the perfect height, weight, shape? There are so many different bodies. And then the people that just have bad genetics, they have to lose. I mean, they don't get to partake in life. This can't be the case, right? And I know he doesn't feel that way. I know there's a little bit of humor in when he's saying these things, but how much of this is really what men or women want? Because then if you're gay, if they're more feminine in that side, do they want those things? Are they wanting the big buff, 8-pack, 6-pack abs, 15% body fat? Or are we like, hey, I just want somebody who's kind, they have the same beliefs that I do, they have the same feelings that I do, they love me as much as I love them, not more, not less? Is it more of that? And is his voice even, important, from a woman's perspective, from a man? I mean, when I was young, I always got complimented on my voice. Oh, you've got a great deep voice. But I see so many musicians today that are singing, where they have such a high pitch. There's so many commentators now. Ben Shapiro's got a high pitched voice. Sagar from Crystal and Sagar's got kind of a high pitched voice. Tucker Carlson's got a high pitched voice. These people have millions of viewers and followers and listeners. So do these things matter anymore? Like, what really matters at the end of the day? What matters to you? And we're going to pick on these people? We used to. Years ago, we would. Years ago, we would have said, "Oh, these guys have such a feminine voice." These musicians, these orators. I I don't know. Sometimes there are people that I literally just can't watch on YouTube or TV because of their voice. There's just something in my brain that gets triggered, I guess, and I just can't stand to listen to them. Like Ben Shapiro is one of them. He talks way too fast for me, and he gets way too high of a voice when he starts to screech, and it's just like. And Sagar, like I love Crystal and Sagar. I love their views. I think they're both talented, but sometimes Sagar, his voice goes, and it's just like nails on a chalkboard. Not his fault. Or is it? I don't know. Is there things that he could do to work on to lower his register? I just born with this voice? I've always sounded like this. I think when I was like 6 years old, I sounded like this. So looks, sound, what are the things that we look for in a companion? And do we have, is it true? Are we still, have we not evolved? Have we not evolved to where we don't think this way, where our chemistry in our brain doesn't say like, oh, you have to have childbearing hips. That's what I'm looking for as a man and a woman. I've never, hips has never been a thing for me. I've always been attracted to eyes because that's the one thing I'm looking at the most when I'm talking to you is your eyes. Not breasts, butt, legs, any of these, because all these things change. Is it hair? People lose hair. I'm blessed at 50 years old, to have all my hair. So is this just projection from Joe of what he thinks? Because it's literally the way we were raised. You had to look like this. Even in the 50s and the 60s, all the tough guys and all the movies, and especially all like the beach movies, where everybody's in bikinis and swim, the guys are in swimsuits. They were all muscular and buff. But things are changing now. I mean, you look at Superman, no, sorry. Yeah, well, Superman and Batman. Okay. Two characters from like the 50s who these guys weren't in shape. Adam West wasn't in shape, didn't have six-pack abs, was like the dad bod of superheroes in the original Superman on TV. These guys, their costumes were poorly fitting, but it was entertaining. And we didn't not, we didn't say like, oh, I don't want to be this character. Everybody still wanted to dress up as that person for Halloween. But then in the 90s, 2000s, now with all the latex material and all the things that these uniforms and suits have now on characters, they literally going down to like, was it the Batman with George Clooney, where they added nipples, to the latex material of the costume to show more, and the cut, and the abs and the definition in the shoulders and the striation of the muscles in the shoulders. And we all look at that and go, I wished I looked like that. Okay, well, go to the gym, work out, eat better. But now, so and then you like the Christian Bale Batman, and right now Aquaman is, looks more like a Viking versus somebody who just swims all day. You would have thought that Aquaman would look more like Michael Phelps. Because the cartoon version of Aquaman did. He wasn't that big. He was a thin character. And even now, so now we've come again for another turn, and you look at Batman today, the new one that just came out, right? He's a very small guy. He's short in stature, his physique, he's fit, but he's not like bulk and ripped, and he's not 6'5". He doesn't have the Dolph Lundgren kind of shape. And is that the new thing where he's more emo? So things change, trends change, people change, people's desires change. So for women to men, so we can maybe end this debate once and for all, does it matter? Maybe when you're young, when all of us were young and had no body fat and could eat a horse and not gain a pound, and as you get older and you look at yourself, do your standards change because you've changed? Maybe no matter how hard you work out, it's like, like me, I work out a lot. I exercise. I try to eat healthy as much as I can. I still enjoy, sweets and desserts, but has my expectations changed as I'm getting older, right? Where you're like, hey, I maybe have a little, 5 pounds that I'm carrying too much. So should what I'm looking for, should I lower my standards also? Right? Because if I'm not a 10, why should I be looking for a 10? Like, do these things matter? Do these things change? Do women as they get older start going like gravity's kicked in? I'm not a 10 anymore. I have to lower my expectations of what I'm wanting on the other end. I can't hold them to such a high standard when I'm not, carrying that same standard for myself. And is that more of what's happening? I don't know, but Joe, please put out a poll. I think because you would get millions of people responding to this, and this would give you a more accurate reading than some of these polls that come from these magazines and things where what do they poll like 1,000 people? And like you said, they're probably most of them are lying. Where I have a feeling that most people are going to tell you the truth. They're going to say, this is honestly what I feel. I don't care. So, Joe, please do that for us. Put out a poll on Twitter or YouTube or wherever you can do it, and ask that question, and then you'll have your answer. I'm surprised you don't do that more with some of the things that you talk about on your show. I'm surprised because you'll come on and you'll say some things where you talk about whether it's tribalism or things that that are kind of an old way of thinking, and you say sometimes that I think this is what a lot of people do, but why aren't you polling? Everybody else seems to do it. I mean, I'm going to start doing it. On certain subjects where I don't want to project on my show something that I think where I'm trying to think for the masses because I'm not the masses. So do that for us, Joe. Put out a poll so we can kind of finally drill down on this and have a final answer. So what are your thoughts on this? Leave me a comment. What do you feel about this? What are your thoughts on what are you looking for in a mate? Do these things matter? Is it more just, are you just looking for somebody who's nice and has a job, or are you that superficial? I don't know. Let me know by leaving a comment down below. And if you enjoy my content, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. We'll talk to you next time.